Welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. We're recording this episode on Sunday, December 1st. It'll be released most likely on Monday the 2nd. Fresh off of a big Chelsea victory here, 3-0 against Aston Villa, and Bayern Munich drew Dortmund yesterday in a little bit disjointed effort in Klassiker.
Yeah, huge win for Chelsea. Tough draw for Bayern. But it was brilliant for us being at the local German beer hall, catching up with some old friends. So all around, a fun weekend, although not the result that Bayern probably wanted.
Yeah, agreed. It was overall a good time, like you said. Watched the match at the German beer hall with you, an old friend, and some new love. Maybe we watched with our significant others and our old friend and his fiance. So it was a good time to be had overall, but. Yeah, let's jump right in and start breaking down that match.
Yeah, coming into this one, I expected Bayern to keep up some momentum that I thought they've built up, and really was expecting them to come away with a victory on the day. Even playing at Dortmund ended up being a match that Bayern did probably play better than Dortmund, but sometimes the ball just doesn't find the back of the net.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that Bayern overall played better. There were certainly stretches where they let their level down, and Dortmund really capitalized off their. I would say their biggest chance was their goal by Gittins. But let me just start off by reading through Bayern's lineup just so we can kind of set the stage. But we, of course, had Manuel Neuer between the sticks, Alphonso Davies left back, Kim and Upa center backs, Konrad Laimer at right back. The midfield was Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka. And then the attacking setup, there was a little bit of a surprise here with Tell getting the nod at left wing. And then we saw Jamal Musiala at the 10, Leroy Sané at the right wing, and Harry Kane up top until he got hurt, which is a big, bad bummer. But we'll get into that as we discuss how the match went.
Yeah, the big surprise being Tell getting the start at left wing. That was an interesting one. I'm not sure of the logic necessarily. I don't know if it was the reason that Bayern didn't score any goals. I do think their attack was fairly poor, except maybe Musiala. But do you know the logic behind that Tell move?
So what Kompany said is, we had Serge Gnabry, who was out injured, and I guess Kingsley Coman was a little bit tired after the PSG match. That's what Kompany came out and said. Again, I've been calling for Sané at left wing and Olise at right wing, but it's clear the Kompany's not going to play Sané at the left wing for some reason, even though I like him over there. So that was the reasoning. It did strike me as odd, even as somebody who's been begging for Tell to get more minutes. I do see him as a better fit in that Joker role coming in, maybe around the 60th, 70th minute in the second half. But yeah, I don't think this was the match where you start him, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because it seems like Olise is kind of falling down the pecking order almost, which I find interesting. He's had a pretty solid year in terms of production in his numbers. I do think he's been off as of late. He comes in later in the match yesterday, but still, these attackers they don't seem to be finding their form all at the right time, which I think is making it a little tougher for Bayern to really reach their full potential.
Yeah, I kind of went into a little bit of a diatribe about this last episode, but I'm getting to the point where I think a lot of Bayern fans are, which is, people have been calling for a refresh at that winger position, which most likely means getting rid of 2 out of the 3 of Coman, Gnabry, and Sané, maybe 3 out of the 3, depending on who you'd be able to pick up. And I'm kind of getting to that point where I can see that, I'm not shouting it from the mountaintops like a lot of fans seem to be, but yeah, certainly Coman and Gnabry are dipping in form. I think Sané, it's still a little too early to tell. He hasn't had enough playing time yet. I think Olise has probably been the most solid of them all overall, but like you said, he's had a little bit of a dip lately as well and just hasn't seemed like himself. But, at this point, I think I'd be starting Olise in all these big matches.
Yeah, we'll certainly see what happens going forward. But if we look at the start of this match, I didn't think there was a ton really going on before the first goal. We were just talking before about Kim's chance early on that he ends up not getting a shot away. But besides that, really in the entire first half, I think Bayern's XG was maybe zero point 0.2. Dortmund's ends up being only 0.3 with the one shot. So not a ton going on. Bayern were seemingly in control, but it seemed like, at the start at least, it wasn't going to be a super open match.
Yeah, I thought that Bayern started off the match much better than Dortmund. I thought maybe the first 15 minutes or so, Bayern was kind of controlling things, and I was happy to see that. Like you said, Kim had a massive, massive chance. Just a mistake by the back line on Dortmund, and, Kim could have maybe taken a shot, probably should have taken a shot, but also could have passed it and found, I guess, a one-on-one situation with the keeper. I shouldn't say automatically would have found the back of the net, but it would have been a damn good shot. And, after that first 15 minutes or so, I think that Dortmund really turned it up. And I was surprised with the level of intensity and aggression that Dortmund had. In the past, Dortmund has been a much more defensive-minded team, and I think that Nuri Sahin, their coach, first-year coach this year for Dortmund, is trying to turn them into a more aggressive team. But so far this year, we've seen it not come together, especially on the road. Dortmund has looked awful on the road. They have looked better at home, but yeah, they were clearly motivated for this one. I thought after around the first 15 minutes, we saw probably the stretch of the 20th minute until halftime, Dortmund looked like the better team, the more focused team, and we ended up seeing that goal in the 27th minute. There was kind of a long ball to Gittins, and then, Jamie Gittins just used his pace and kind of burned Konrad Laimer, ran right past him, and Kim was out of position and then didn't make a move towards trying to, cut off that angle and trying to stop the eventual goal. And when he did, it was too late. So Gittins ended up getting a good shot. Neuer could have maybe done a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it was just a little bit of a breakdown from the back line and a great run and a great shot by Gittins.
Brilliant run by Gittins to get past Laimer there, originally letting the ball go past on the sideline there. Looks like it was Schlotterbeck that had the assist. Just a beautiful ball to Gittins, and for him to let the ball just go like that, just a brilliant play. I love when players make plays without actually touching the ball. It's just a brilliant technical aspect of the game you don't often think of. But yeah, then he had the speed to dust really the rest of the Bayern team. We were sitting next to a guy who made it seem like Neuer has fallen off the planet, and prime Neuer saves that. I tend to disagree. I don't think there's a keeper on the planet who saves that. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you throw up a hand and get lucky and save it. There's zero chance you can react to the ball coming in when it's that fast, in my opinion. I'm not expecting Neuer to make it. If he saves it, I would just say it's a brilliant goal. But to put that on him there is a little tough. So to the man sitting to my right at the beer hall, I would just say, let's respect Manuel Neuer.
Thank you, because I've been saying that as well, and I've been seeing so many fans just disrespecting Neuer and just not understanding what he does for the team and what he's capable of. But yeah, at the end of the day, that goal goes in, and that's really a momentum-shifting moment in the match. I give credit to Bayern in the second half for not laying down and dying, and for, I guess whatever Kompany said and whatever adjustments they made at half, they certainly came out in the second half looking better. But there is another moment to discuss in the first half, and it's actually my moment of the match, unfortunately, which is in the 33rd minute. Harry Kane goes down, a non-contact injury, kind of grabbing his hamstring, grabbing, the back of his thigh, and exits the match, calls for the medical team. They show up, and at this point now we can confirm that there's a small muscle tear in his thigh. It sounds like he's going to be sidelined at least for Leverkusen and Heidenheim, so that's really a bummer because Kane coming out, obviously the team is going to miss his goal-scoring ability, but even more than that, I think the formation and the flow of the match was just disrupted, at least until halftime.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting sub that Kompany made, bringing Muller on. It wouldn't have been the move I made. I would have probably put Tell at the 9 and brought somebody else on. But on a macro level here, I do want to just note, obviously you're going to be missing Harry Kane. He's your best player. arguably the best player in the world, but I think there's a small silver lining here if it's not a serious injury. I've talked about on this pod here today and in the past about how these attackers just aren't all finding their form. So I do think it's an opportunity for these guys to step up, and maybe a couple of them really start playing well without Kane there, and then when he comes back, they can continue that form. So that's the small thing I think Bayern fans can at least look at. It's obviously going to make other guys step up. You're missing tons of goals. He's probably averaging, at least over a goal per match. So that's something I'll be looking at. It's going to be tough, no doubt, especially against Leverkusen, but that's why Bayern's Bayern, and they have talent.
Agreed. I mean, yeah, I think we'll have to wait and see, because it could go one of two ways. It could be that silver lining, like you said, and some guys could step up. I think Tell's going to get, more of a chance now than he's had, but the downside of it, which we saw in this match, and I don't know if it was a panic move by Kompany not wanting to change the formation too much, but what I think has to happen, I texted you about this earlier today, at least in this match, it should have happened. We'll see what happens going forward, but, obviously, this is a tricky situation because Bayern is negotiating a new massive deal with Jamal Musiala right now. Things are going very well by all accounts. It sounds like there will hopefully be a new deal soon. So they're trying to not piss him off. And Musiala has made it clear that he needs to play the 10. But, last year we saw Musiala be pushed out to wing at times and operate in those half spaces just the same while technically playing a wing position. And honestly, I thought he looked better last year at the wing than the 10. So in a match like this, what I do is move Tell up to the 9, push Musiala out to the wing, and bring Muller in to play the 10. It depends on the opponent you're playing, sure, but I think that Muller, at this point can't really play striker. And I think he showed that in this match. And I think it's unfair, honestly, to ask him to play that type of a striker role that Kane plays.
Agree that it's unfair. We talked about during the match, Kane scores at least one of the chances that Muller had, one of them which was over 0.3 XG. Yeah, I don't know if Muller is a guy that can just come in and play 60 minutes, fast-paced, great match against a solid team like Dortmund. I'm fine starting him and playing him a lot against some of these lesser teams or in a Pokal match or something, but Muller just isn't what he once was. That's nothing really against him, but I agree with your analysis there. I think going back to Musiala even, he really can play wherever. He's almost like a Palmer where plays the 10 more often, but can also play on the wing a ton. You could do a lot of things. You could have brought Olise on instead of a Muller and then changed things up with Tell at the 9 maybe, and maybe Musiala stays at 10 and Sané goes over to the left wing. There's just other moves you could have made. Could have brought Coman on. I don't necessarily know the perfect move, but the move that he made with Muller at the 9 probably wasn't it.
Yeah, and I think too it's hard to judge Muller when he's coming on in these situations where it's like, okay, now you're in, you're in because somebody's injured and you have to play all these different positions. Like, he was looking a lot better at the start of the season when he was kind of in more of a rhythm. I think it's hard for anybody to just jump in, and yeah, I don't think the 9 is the position for him. We could also potentially see Gnabry play the 9. I don't know the extent of Gnabry's injury. There hasn't been any updates on that, so we'll see. But you have options at players who can play that striker position. It is going to be tough, though. I do just want to also point out, especially against Leverkusen, I think the team is going to miss Kane's build-up play and almost his defense in a way, which is like crazy to say about a striker. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it happened right now and that Bayern drew Leverkusen in the round of 16 in the Pokal. So I hope that they can sneak through that one. Leverkusen, has had an up and down season as well. I think that Leverkusen will play Bayern more aggressively than they did earlier this year, because if Leverkusen just sits back and parks the bus again, that I don't know if that's the right strategy for them even.
Yeah, if we try to look at what happened in the second half of this match to think about how Bayern could do against Leverkusen, I will say I think Bayern really controlled the second half, whether that was a little bit of Dortmund saying, all right, we're up 1-0, let's try to get this win or draw. But Bayern certainly generated more chances in that second half, some of which, they'd tell you they should have put away. So that is a positive going into this midweek match, that they did play better. They end up putting a goal on the score sheet. So that's certainly a good thing there. They bring on some subs as well that did well. But what were your thoughts really on why they played better in that second half?
Neuer mentioned that Kompany had a great halftime meeting with the team. He didn't yell at the team. I guess maybe that's something that somebody like Tuchel would do, but according to Neuer, he was extremely calm and collected and really gave the team these adjustments in a rational way. So I don't know exactly what the adjustments were. I mean, part of it was definitely the subs. We saw Sacha Boey come on in the 62nd minute, as well as Kingsley Coman. Michael Olise came on later in the 80th minute, but yeah, some of these adjustments, I think, just helped the team. I think being able to, calm down after that first half and talk through, okay, this is our new lineup, Kane's out, maybe moves some people's positioning around. I think Musiala and Muller kind of got more on the same page at halftime there. And yeah, like you said, the team just looked a lot better. I thought Boué did all right in the second half there. Limer was certainly getting tired. He didn't have a bad match, I didn't think, except for that one massive mistake, which, it's almost like, how can you say someone didn't have a bad match when they make a mistake that leads to a goal? But yeah, overall, I think it was just the team kind of gathering themselves and showing that character and that fight to not back down, which, you maybe would have seen last year.
Yeah, and good on Olise for coming in so late and providing what ends up being the deciding factor in Bayern getting a draw. And I'm trying to recall exactly how that goal ended up happening, but I'm sure you know it.
Yeah, it was off of a set piece, sort of. I think Zane maybe took the actual shot off the set piece, but it ricocheted off a Dortmund defender and then bounced back out to Olise, who just laid in the perfect ball for Jamal Musiala, who's became a heading machine. I mean, I think he has maybe 4 headers for Bayern and 5 if you count his one for the German national team within the last month or so, which is insane because I don't think I saw one header from him all last year. Musiala is essentially playing like a striker at times now, getting in the box at the right time, and yeah, him and Olise were just completely on the same page. It was a free header. He made his run perfectly, and Olise just laid it up right to him.
Yeah, brilliant ball by Olise. I was just checking Musiala's height because you kind of forget that he's taller than you might think.
Yeah, I think he's like 6'1", right?
According to the internet, he's 6 foot flat. Maybe that means he's 5'11", who knows for sure, but certainly a very athletic young lad. So that 6 foot 5'11" height, he can probably jump pretty high as well. So he's able to use that height. And I don't want to throw this out here, but it almost makes me think, like, if they're really desperate for somebody at 9, maybe play Musiala as like a false 9 almost. Maybe a discussion further down the line if Kane's injured for too long, but great to see him use his athleticism in that way to score the goal.
It doesn't seem like he's that tall to me. If maybe part of it is his frame, but yeah, I like look at him and I think he's like 5'9". So the fact that he's even got those extra couple of inches is just kind of funny, but he's putting it to use.
Yeah, and going back to Olise too, I just think it's really important for him to get involved with a goal contribution in that moment. I said he's kind of been struggling, but for him to do that is great. And I was just checking the stats again, not to go back to Muller and to talk about his poor performance, but tough to see his rating on SofaScore. It's not the Bible, but I guess when you miss a few big chances, you really get downgraded. So that's interesting to see. But the other subs, as you mentioned, I think were pretty solid.
Yeah, agreed. And, the second half, like we said, Bayern kind of dominated. I do think that Bayern had A lot of poor passes in this match. I thought Kimmich had more poor passes than I've seen from him all season. Goretzka as well in the midfield there. Something about it, the team's obviously missing Pavlovic. I think that the four most important players to this team are Kane, Musiala, Kimmich, and Pavlovic, and things just seemed, like I said earlier, disjointed is the word I would use to describe Bayern's performance. And one other thing to mention, too, I think all season Kimmich has been poor on set pieces. I don't want to just make this into a Kimmich dissing session because I do think Kimmich is one of the best players on the team, and I've praised him almost every episode in his performances. And I don't think he was bad against Dortmund, but one thing I just wanted to call out is his set pieces have not been good this year, or even really last year.
Yeah, something to watch going forward. I mean, you have a guy like Olise, if you start, he's somebody that can swing a ball in brilliantly. So Kimmich, I think he's not going to stay that way the entire year. He's too good to all of a sudden be poor from a set piece. As you get older, that's not something that you get worse at with set piece. You might get slower, but you're not all of a sudden going to lose the ability to play a pass in. So if Kompany decides to make a change that way, or the players decide, that could be something to look for.
Yeah, so, overall, I think that can kind of wrap up our discussion on this match. On one hand, disappointing that Bayern didn't get the win and that they looked a little bit slow at times. On the other hand, good for them to, crawl back and provide at least me with an ecstatic, euphoric moment of Musiala scoring in the 85th minute or so. I mean, I was out of my seat running down the hall after that goal, so that was a good time. And really the main thing, is that Kane gets healthy. That's the biggest takeaway from this match, in my opinion, was Kane's injury, which sucks. But yeah, as of right now, Bayern remains at the top of the table. Frankfurt's going to play in, 26 minutes since we're recording this here right now. Bayern's currently ahead 7 points. Frankfurt could close that gap to 4. So yeah, I guess we can close this one out, maybe give some match awards. I have a few thoughts on that.
Yeah, match awards. I'm giving man of the match to Musiala. I thought he was really the only great attacker on the day, bar Olise coming in the last 10 to 15 minutes. And besides that, I'd really only give out maybe best defender and just say, maybe Davies. I just think he didn't really make any mistake. I thought Kim and a Limer could have done better for that Dortmund goal, and didn't see much from Upamecano, so a weak award there, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on man of the match, give that to Musiala for the goal. I'm actually going to give the Robin to Olise, even though he didn't play very much. He definitely made an impact when he came in, got the assist, so it's a little Batman-Robin combination there, Musiala and Olise. No underrated player to give out in this one, unfortunately, for Bayern. But I'm going to give the defender actually to Upamecano. I thought he did a nice job of locking up Guirassy, who's one of the more exciting attacking players in the Bundesliga and maybe Europe, depending on who you'd ask, I'd say. But yeah, Upa did a good job, I think, at locking him down. Overall, the defense wasn't anything spectacular.
Agreed, yeah. Largely no crazy mistakes. Even the goal they gave up, there wasn't absurdity of mistakes. So just ends up being a 1-1 draw and nothing crazy to give out.
Yeah, so like we said, Bayern now plays Leverkusen on Tuesday. We kind of talked about that one a little bit. It's kind of tough to preview right now with Kane's absence. I think, like you said, some guys are going to have to step up. But follow the Twitter because I'll be dropping the full match preview as well as my predicted lineup once I kind of wrap my head around what I think is going to happen. But overall, I think it's going to be a good match. I just hope Leverkusen plays a little bit more aggressively, and I hope it's a more fun match than when Bayern played them last time.
Yeah, and I think in terms of preview, I might try to get you to do a little TikTok on previewing what a team could look like without the star player, Harry Kane. So follow that as well. But yeah, Bayern, we'll see what happens without Kane. Should be interesting.
Yeah, poor timing, but still looking forward to it. So yeah, let's talk about Chelsea now because they had the big win of the weekend.
Huge win for Chelsea, 3-0 against Villa, as we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. And Enzo Maresca's team is flying on all cylinders right now. We've seen that his tactics, his strategy, the way he sets his lineups, the way he plays against certain teams, it's been brilliant. He hasn't really made that many huge errors as a manager tactically, which is downright impressive when you're in your first year as manager of any team. I don't care what level it's at, it's impressive. And today he rolled with a lineup consisting of Caicedo in that right back inverted midfield spot, which some fans and myself included have said maybe he should try to do. Reece James is injured once again. Gusto picked up illnesses and knocks along the way recently here and hasn't been in super form. So I loved seeing that, getting Caicedo, Lavia, and Enzo all on the pitch at the same time was a bold move, and it certainly paid off.
Yeah, I think it's a testament to Enzo Maresca's ability to know his squad and to know his opponents to plan for matches like this. So it's going to depend on whoever you're playing, but I think this might be my favorite Chelsea lineup. I really like seeing Neto, Sancho, Palmer, and Jackson together at the attack. And then, there are times where you're going to have to switch around the midfield and the right back situation depending on who's healthy and who you're playing. But, I like Caicedo back at right back today, and I like the Lavio-Enzo midfield situation.
Yeah, I thought Lavia was pretty average today for the most part, wasn't involved in a ton. It also means that he didn't do anything wrong necessarily. Caicedo continues to be the best midfielder in the Premier League. I think he's making that case more clear as the day goes on with Rodri out injured, so that's awesome to see. You put him at right back, but as we kind of were talking about, it's still more of a midfield position. We've seen Gusto in that spot. He's almost playing as a 10 in some instances when you're in possession. And Aston Villa wasn't threatening much anyway today. They had some counters, but even when they had the ball, it's not like Caicedo is this crazy right back where he has to lock somebody down. I don't even know if I saw him defending one-on-one one time super far on that wing with whoever Villa's left winger was. So you're really putting him in a midfield spot. Enzo is allowed to go further up the pitch, which resulted in some fine play from him. So the fact that Chelsea have these players that are so flexible in the spots that they can play really makes it easier for Enzo Maresca to make decisions in his lineups.
Yeah, I think it's also just testament to how flexible the system is that Enzo's running. And Chelsea really just took it to Villa today. Make no mistake about it, they dominated the match. It seemed like they dominated possession. I don't know what it actually was, but Villa kind of sunk into their low block, looking to get counters and long balls through, but just seemed like the effort from them wasn't there. I don't know what it was with them today, but they just did not look like they could get their wits about them. Part of that is credit to Chelsea, and part of that is just, strategy or player effort, but it really looked like Villa just wasn't even really trying to make attacks.
Yeah, I think it was a combo of both. I think Chelsea's midfield was dominant. I don't think Villa stood a chance in that department. I said with this lineup, where you make a small change like this and you don't know how it's going to go, you need to score quick because then it makes things so much easier. It was great to see Chelsea do that today, and really was started by some great play from Cucurella and Sancho on that left-hand side. I think the partnership that they've had so far, we've seen, has really been great to start the year ever since we got Sancho. Cucurella wins the ball back with a brilliant challenge. Sancho kind of ends up getting it, passing it back to him, who crosses it in for Jackson, who cleanly puts it away. And even on a day where Jackson wasn't necessarily in his greatest form, he could have probably added another goal at some point later, but great for him to get a goal in with his off foot as well, past what some would say is a top goalie. Certainly wasn't on the day. I'm talking about Emi Martinez, of course, but to get a goal early, I think, was a huge key as well for Chelsea.
Yeah, it was huge for multiple reasons. Overall, just an awesome play, like you said, on that whole left side. I thought Sancho did good. Cucurella got the ball in the box. It was deflected before it got to Jackson, but it was still good just to get the ball in there and try to, frustrate and create chaos in that low block there from Villa. But Jackson had an awesome finish, so he deserves all the praise he's going to get for that one. Just struck it so cleanly, and even off the deflection, he got a lot of pace on it. But scoring that first goal there is so important against a team who's playing like Villa, in my opinion, because Villa's whole mindset is stifle Chelsea's attack. Who cares if they overwhelm you in the back and in the midfield, but just stop their attack from scoring goals, maybe find a counter with someone like Watkins or Duran who came in later, maybe get a long ball through to somebody. And when you score early on that sort of a team with that sort of mentality, it just shuts things down, because it's like, what are you supposed to do now? The attacks for Villa are going to be few and far between unless they make adjustments. Spoiler, they didn't really make adjustments. And at that point, it's like Chelsea's just in the driver's seat and then can just control the ball and control the flow of the game and completely overwhelm them midfield and back.
Yeah, and Villa weren't really pressing Chelsea at all. Sanchez was never under pressure. I don't think I saw him at all worry me with the ball at his feet. So, like you said, they're really just counting on these counterattacks, which they end up getting one pretty soon after the Jackson goal, where Watkins just completely outmuscles Fofana on kind of the left-hand side, ends up really with a one-on-one against Sanchez, and Cole was sneaking in there. So if the ball would have gotten past Sanchez, I think Colwell maybe could have slid, done a Thiago Silva save at the goal line, but a brilliant save by Big Bob Sanchez, who ends up putting together a great day. So that was awesome to see, because at times we've talked about how Chelsea can score and then give something up right away, and they didn't in that moment. And I have to add here, as we're recording live, that Liverpool has scored a goal against Man City. So it's looking like Chelsea will be ahead of Man City after today. We'll see what happens in this game, but things are just looking up for Chelsea, and even Bob Sanchez playing well is such a great thing to see as a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of these live recordings. So much can still happen. And I say live recordings. I don't know how else you would record. The episode won't be posted live to this, obviously, but you know what I mean as the listener. It's still a little bit early here. I'm not finished with my first cup of coffee of the day yet, so we'll see what happens with how the Premier League table shapes up at the end of the match day. But you're right, it is looking up for Chelsea. Enzo Maresca can say as many times as he wants that they're not competing for the top of the table, and it's obviously too early to make any sort of declaration yet. But at this point, things are looking good for Chelsea, and certainly they'll be competing for a European spot.
Yeah, it's interesting when he makes those comments. I kind of like it for a number of reasons that maybe we'll get into down the line when it kind of comes to fruition or doesn't. But even going back to Bob Sanchez here, the second goal that Chelsea get, I believe, was essentially started by Sanchez. It was that play where he had that flying header when he kind of comes way up out of the box. Chelsea collect the ball, and then it was a combo of Caicedo and Lavia dominating that midfield of Villa. They get the ball to Palmer, who then lays off a great pass a little bit back toward the edge of the box for Chelsea. And Enzo Fernandez, he's had his struggles to start the year on and off the field, which I won't get too much into, but basically, I don't know if it was actually the outside of his right foot, but kind of looked like it was. Either way, a brilliant strike from just outside the box, outside of his Argentinian teammate Martinez's reach. And Chelsea are up 2-0, and they're flying. And Enzo scoring goals as that midfielder, that's huge for Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't ABC TMZ, so we won't talk about what's going on with Enzo off the field, of course, but a great goal. Great for the whole team at that point. In my mind, based off how Villa was playing, the match was damn near already put to bed, but this completely sealed it. like I said, with the style that Villa was playing and their inability to make adjustments, they weren't going to come back from a 2-0 lead. But yeah, great strike from Enzo, finds the part of the goal that Martinez can't reach. And also maybe worth mentioning, I think it was right before this goal happened, but a weird play, a miscommunication with Martinez and whoever it was on Villa's defense. But, Martinez picks up the ball with his hands off of a pass back from the defender, which you can't do. So Chelsea ends up getting a free kick inside the box where everybody just lines up in the goal and Chelsea tries to pummel it through.
Yeah, so I think they just called it an indirect free kick.
Indirect, yep.
Over text, I might have said direct, but basically your first touch can't be a shot, so that's why they have Enzo. I think technically you have to either, I don't know if it's backwards or sideways, but Enzo touches it slightly back so that Palmer can then shoot it. I would say that's almost an impossible shot. I saw people online saying Palmer should have gone above the Villa players. Do I agree? Sure, but it's still asking a lot to kind of chip it that high with some pace.
Yeah, I think ultimately what it shows is the dysfunction in Villa's defense, and Martinez's head was somewhere else. It wasn't on the pitch today, that's for sure. So a weird situation, a fun one to kind of watch. I don't know if I've ever seen that happen before like that, but I think what you got to hope for if you're Chelsea there, instead of scoring a goal directly, is getting a deflection and then scoring off of the chaos that ensues.
Yeah, and then we see Martinez make an error that almost leads to a Jackson goal. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because some unfortunate news here from the main man, Fabrizio Romano. Not surprised at all the way Fofana came out of this game, but sounds like Maresca has already confirmed initial reaction is at least 4 to 5 weeks out with a hamstring injury. Obviously, they'll do a full scan later this week, I'm sure, to confirm the extent. But with his history being injured, especially with those hamstrings, not looking good for West Fofana.
That's a big blow. And honestly, watching the match live, I thought he was going to be fine. I figured he might be out for a little bit, but 4 to 5 weeks, that's pretty bad. And those hamstring injuries can be really pesky, and they can kind of creep back in, throughout a player's career. So that's a bummer, and hopefully he gets well soon.
Yeah, the rest of this match until the last goal for Chelsea, nothing crazy was happening. So I almost want to take this time now to think ahead, because this Fofana injury will be very interesting to monitor. You have Badiashile come into this match against Villa, and it's now twice where Benoit Badiashile and Levi Colwill have been paired together as the center back tandem. I think against Leicester they were paired because Fofana was maybe slightly hurt or something, but that's something to watch. Badiashile has definitely performed better the last few times he's been out. He's gotten a lot of hate over the time he's been at Chelsea, but that's interesting because they're both left-footed center backs. I think that first time they were paired, Colwill was kind of the right center back, but this time Badiashile came in, he was the right center back. So do they go to Tosin? Do they keep Badiashile as that option with Fofana now out? That'll be very interesting. Luckily, Chelsea do have a match against Southampton here in the midweek, a lesser opponent where you can kind of have less pressure to figure things out. But then they go away to Tottenham next weekend. So the rest of 2024 for Chelsea, some lighter matches. But man, if this Fofana injury is anything like he's had in the past, it's a little worrisome.
It is worrisome, but I'll try to be the other side of the coin here. I'll try to be a beacon of light as I, stress and worry about Harry Kane's injury for Bayern. That's why you have a deep squad. A lot of people, especially in the case of Chelsea, poke fun at the squad size that Chelsea has. And, a lot of people on the Bayern side worry about this overflow of wingers and attacking players. That's all there's some points to be made there. That's all fine. But ultimately, you have a deep squad because when people get injured, you need to replace them, and you need to replace them seamlessly because the season doesn't slow down.
Yeah, you certainly look to that depth as hope for Chelsea. I will say center back is one of the positions that they haven't been the strongest all season, but that's why you signed Tosin on a free transfer. He's had starting experience for a while with Fulham in the past, and Benoit Badiashile has certainly started as well. And I'm actually forgetting about Axel Disasi, who started a ton of games at right center back and right back over the last 2 years for Chelsea. So, do I think he's amazing? No, but I'm maybe not as worried as I was about a minute and a half ago when first reading this news, although I do think Fofana is the best of the bunch. So we'll see what happens there. Getting back to this match for a little bit here, I think Neto has really locked down a starting spot in the Premier League. He should have had an assist, you mentioned to me during the match. Couldn't agree more with that. He's looking so good. His crosses are some of the best in the Premier League.
100%. That's what I was going to say about Neto is his crossing ability is it almost seems like his crosses are too good sometimes, and Chelsea players don't even expect the ball to be right where it is. But yeah, shout out to Neto. I thought Neto had a really solid match, although he didn't get on the score sheet. Like I said, at least 2 opportunities there where he could have / should have had an assist. And that's the other thing to mention too. Obviously Palmer comes in at the end of the match. Sorry, doesn't come in. He's already been in, but scores a goal at the end of the match is what I'm getting at. But up until that point, for the rest of the beginning of the match, I thought Palmer had a relatively quiet match, and the fact that Chelsea is doing so well and finding guys like Neto and guys like Jackson and even Sancho, who I thought did some good things, that can disrupt defenses and eventually score goals. Palmer will get back to his goal scoring self, and you saw it at the end of the match. He scored a goal, right? So I'm not just like shitting on Palmer here, but what I'm trying to say is it's good that Chelsea can make opportunities and score goals, even, not even thinking about or considering Cole Palmer's talent.
Yeah, it's similar to a Harry Kane effect where you have this seemingly quiet match and you're still on the score sheet with 2 goal contributions. The announcers even alluded to it during the match at some point, talking about how, he hasn't been great lately, and then they realized, oh wait, he had that assist to Enzo Fernandez, and then you wait another half hour and he pulls off a worldly goal, curling it in from the edge of the box, and the goalie didn't even move. Nobody's saving that. A brilliant goal to put the match away. So awesome to see him find that form. If he's providing goals, assists, it doesn't matter to me as long as he's getting himself involved with the team, and it's great to see. And, back to the winger conversation, you got Neto who's locking down that spot. Sancho is such a good change of pace from what Neto provides. So you have these 2 options on the left and right wing where one is more of a dribble at you guy with less pace but can get inside those tight spaces. Mostly has provided assists so far, hasn't been on the goal sheet, and then you got Neto who's pace, crossing the ball in. So to have those 2 opposites on the wings, that's massive for Chelsea, and I think it makes it really tough for opponents.
That's part of the reason why I wanted to see them play together so bad is the dichotomy of their styles and what you have to plan for as a defense. I can't even imagine trying to stop somebody like Sancho, who's so creative and good with the ball at his feet, and then also Neto, who's so fast and can get to so many balls, can put in so many good crosses, all while, and here's the key, I think, having somebody like Palmer in the offense and trying to deal with that. He commands so much attention. Same with Kane, where a lot of times when Palmer or Kane, quote unquote, aren't doing very much, they actually are. They're contributing to the offense in ways that maybe won't show up on SofaScore or whatever other stat-based website you use to look at player ratings and stuff. If you're watching the match, you'll see that these guys actually are contributing to the attack, even just by the attention that they command from a defense. That opens up opportunities for guys like Sancho and Neto to just completely shine.
Yeah, great to see those guys playing well. Did you have any of these guys you just mentioned in your match awards?
I did. Do you want to start with man of the match and go down from there?
Might as well.
Okay, so I did have Jackson as my man of the match because I think that first goal was so important, as we mentioned, just to disrupt Villa's complete game plan and their complete style of how they were playing. So because that was my moment of the match, I'm giving Jackson my man of the match. You could have easily had Enzo as man of the match. I thought I actually gave Enzo the Robin of the match. So really those two were my top two, just in how they broke the game open and destroyed Villa's plan.
Very interesting not to have Palmer in there. Palmer for me is ultimately my man of the match. And I get your point of the start of that game was so important and those players made it happen. I just think when you add that goal at the end and round out the day, Palmer's the man for me. And he had that assist to Enzo, which was huge. I think what he's been providing lately, too, is defenders are so locked on him, where I think it opens up space for other players. And that's why you're seeing a Fernandez score more goals lately, just because guys are locked in on Palmer. But I actually thought my Robin was not Enzo, was not Nico Jackson. It's another guy that we haven't talked about yet, but just is a king and a huge player in my heart. And my heart has been growing for this man. It's, of course, Marc Cucurella, becoming one of the best left backs in the Premier League, which has been amazing to see. With his struggles starting at Chelsea when he came over from Brighton, he makes tackles, he breaks plays up. Whether that counts as an assist or not, if it was deflected to Jackson, I don't care. That's an assist to me. He has just been outstanding at all levels, and it's amazing to see.
Yeah, I gave Mark my defender of the match for this one. I think everything you said is true. I think the way he contributed to the attack in this one, while also not, faltering on defense. Granted, Villa wasn't doing anything to pressure the defense on Chelsea, so think what you will about that. The way that Mark contributed to the attack was really special. I mean, he was up in there, in the half spaces, out wide, providing assists / maybe not assists, but assists to me and you. And, just really disrupting things. And he's been doing that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's been huge. And with Fofana out here, whatever happens with the defensive line, Cucurella will lock down that left back spot. A couple other kind of awards I guess I'd give. A moment that I thought was awesome, not necessarily a moment of the match, but kind of a fiery moment. Duran had a great header. He was unmarked off a corner later in the match, and Colwill cleared it with a header of his own. I thought that was a huge play. Not sure if Sanchez would have saved it, but awesome nonetheless, and he was so fired up, so just wanted to shout that out. And I think I got to go defender of the match as Big Bob Sanchez, because that's his first clean sheet at home this season in the Premier League. And he made one really good save, a second with a Watkins shot that really was a poor shot, but he just stepped up in some nice moments, claimed some good crosses, had that header I talked about, so awesome to see him playing well, especially coming off of a great Jorgensen start in the Conference League, where some people wanted to see him start over Sanchez.
Yeah, I have a couple more players to give flowers to, but like you said, Sanchez was one of them. You put it perfectly. I don't think I have to elaborate on that. He had at least two very good saves this match that I'm thinking of, and also didn't make any mistakes. He's contributing to the attack as well in ways, as we discussed with that header. He had a really clean, spicy pass to start another attack somewhere in the match, I think in the second half. And, he's doing what Maresca wants. Right? Maresca has said multiple times that he wants Sanchez to, really be aggressive in how he's distributing the ball, and he seems to be doing that. Also wanted to shout out Neto. We've talked about him with his crossing this match and just overall pace and ability to play on the ball and provide something special there on the wing. My underrated player of the match, funnily enough, was going to be Palmer. I think he was underrated for the reasons we talked about, like the announcer said, it seemed like he wasn't doing much, but he had an assist, and then he really blew things open with that goal at the end.
Yeah, great to see it. And if he's being underrated and doing the things he's doing, it's phenomenal for Chelsea. Just wanted to note, we mentioned Badiashile got in this game for the injured Fofana. Noni came in as well for Sancho, and Nkunku for Jackson. Gusto and Felix very late. Gusto playing with Caicedo was actually interesting. It seemed like Caicedo was more of the right back, even with Gusto in, but still both in the midfield. Hardly played enough minutes where it mattered, but actually thought Christo had a chance to maybe score a goal. Felix as well with a really nice strike toward the end there. But just good to get some of these guys minutes, and we'll see looking forward to Wednesday what happens against Southampton as they travel down to the southern coast of England. What Chelsea decide to do, what Maresca wants. I think he's going to maybe play an Nkunku over a Jackson, treat it almost like a Conference League game, not where he's doing a change of 10 guys. You know, it's still the Premier League, so you need to win these matches, but I do think he will make a few more subs. I would guess Lavia won't play. He hasn't been playing him twice in a week, so we'll see what happens with the rest of the team, but something to watch, definitely, and then you look forward to Tottenham next weekend. So exciting stuff for Chelsea, and we'll see if they can continue the momentum.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap things up. Unless there's anything else you want to mention, I'm excited for these upcoming matches. Like you said, Chelsea and Bayern both playing midweek and then next weekend again. So we got a lot to look forward to.
Huge things ahead, and as always, give us a like, subscribe, wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, the Odyssey app. We're actually on there if you get that. And then, of course, follow us on TikTok as we're accumulating the followers there, Twitter, so Blue Sky if you're into that.
We're really everywhere. I mean, this is becoming a global experience, a global brand.
It is. It definitely is.
All right, well, with that, I will send us off. As usual, as always, Mia San Mia.
Up the Chelsea.